There was a time when life regularly told you that something had changed. You finished school. You completed your training. You qualified for the job. You crossed a line and the next chapter began. Those moments still exist, but they don't seem to last for very long anymore. Almost immediately, there is another course to take, another certification to earn, another skill to develop, another update to install, another version of yourself waiting somewhere ahead. Without realizing it, life starts feeling different, not because you stopped moving forward, because moving forward no longer feels like arriving anywhere. The transitions become shorter, the process becomes longer, and somewhere along the way, a quiet sentence begins to disappear. You're ready. Not perfect, not finished forever, just ready for this stage of life. I've been thinking about that sentence for a while, not because learning became less important. If anything, learning has never been more valuable. The strange part is something else. I can't remember the last time the world simply told someone, "You're ready." So what changed? Maybe nothing disappeared. Maybe the rules quietly changed. For most of history, people crossed visible thresholds. Not every transition was easy, but most of them were recognizable. Today, many transitions still happen. They simply feel less like endings and more like the beginning of another process. In a standard environment, preparation has a clear terminal point. You build the foundation, you pass the test, and then you use what you built to navigate reality. But when the environment updates faster than the person inside it, preparation loses its boundaries. It ceases to be a phase you go through before the real work begins. It quietly becomes the environment itself. You look at your professional life, your skills, your knowledge, and it constantly feels like an unfinished structure. The software updates, the methodologies change, the metrics shift. The problem isn't that you are falling behind. The problem is that the finish line is no longer a static position. It is an algorithmic variable. And once the finish line moves at the same speed as your progress, you stop treating your current capabilities as a tool to execute work. You start treating them as a temporary gap that needs to be filled. The present is no longer the space where you apply your strength. It becomes a constant maintenance cycle. This is not because progress failed. In many fields, the world genuinely changes too fast for old models of preparation to remain stable. Tools change, markets change, information changes. The problem begins when every changing system starts asking the same question. Not, "Are you ready?" but, "Can you keep updating?" The pressure shifted from, "Am I doing a good job?" to, "Am I updating fast enough to keep doing this job next year?" It changes how you see your own competence. It turns your current experience into something that feels obsolete before you even finish using it. Before we continue, this film is part of a larger investigation called Protocol Multiverse. Punchline Protocol explores the human experience. Darkside Protocol explores the systems behind it. Debrief Protocol connects both perspectives. If you'd like to follow the complete investigation, you'll find links to every chapter in the description below. Now, back to the investigation. Every generation inherits a different environment. Farmers inherited the seasons. Factory workers inherited the production line. Office workers inherited the calendar. We inherited something less visible: continuous updates. Most of them solved real problems. Software became safer, medicine improved, information became easier to access, businesses adapted faster, entire industries became more efficient. Progress did exactly what progress was supposed to do. It removed friction. But every solution changes the environment that follows it. Every acceleration solves one problem and quietly creates another. When knowledge changes faster than institutions can stabilize it, preparation no longer has a natural ending. The question slowly changes from, "Have you learned enough?" to, "Have you updated recently?" That is a very different question. One asks whether you are capable. The other asks whether your capability is still current. And once that shift becomes normal, readiness stops feeling like a destination. It becomes a subscription. The point is not that technology created the problem. The point is that every improvement changes the conditions under which people live. We celebrate the benefits because they are visible. We rarely notice the psychological cost because it arrives gradually, hidden inside the new normal. Progress is rarely free. Every improvement changes not only what we can do, but also what we quietly begin to expect from ourselves. For centuries, education was designed around relatively stable worlds. You learned a profession because the profession itself changed slowly. The knowledge you acquired could remain useful for decades. Preparation had a beginning. It also had an ending. Today's world follows a different rhythm. Entire industries can transform within a few years. New tools appear before previous ones become familiar. Artificial intelligence reshapes workflows faster than universities can redesign their programs. Skills that once guaranteed stability may simply become foundations for the next skill that has not yet been invented. None of this is evidence that society is failing. It may simply be evidence that society is changing faster than any previous generation expected. Perhaps adaptation really will become one of the most valuable professional skills of the future. Perhaps learning continuously through shorter, focused training will become more practical than relying only on qualifications earned many years earlier. In a rapidly changing world, that makes perfect sense. But adaptation and permanent preparation are not the same thing. Adapting means using new knowledge to engage with reality. Permanent preparation means postponing reality until the next update arrives. Those are two completely different ways of living. This film is not questioning lifelong learning. It is questioning the disappearance of psychological completion. Human beings can adapt continuously and still need moments when life quietly says, "For now, this is enough." Continuous learning should expand participation in reality, not quietly replace it. In previous films, we explored how acceleration changed attention, presence, and even the experience of time itself. This is another consequence of the same movement. Every acceleration gives something. Every acceleration takes something. Faster communication reduced distance, but it also reduced silence. Unlimited information increased opportunity, but it also increased comparison. Continuous learning expands possibility, but it can quietly erase the feeling of completion. Progress rarely arrives as a gift. It arrives as an exchange. Most of those exchanges are worth making. The important question is whether we still notice what we gave away. Because once the trade becomes invisible, its psychological consequences become invisible too. Civilizations rarely change because they solve problems. They change because every solution creates a new environment that future generations simply accept as normal. The greatest transformations are often the quietest ones, because they happen one useful improvement at a time. The longer preparation continues without a clear ending, the more it begins to shape identity itself. At first, you prepare because reality requires it. Later, preparation becomes the way you relate to reality. You stop asking whether you can already contribute. You start asking what is still missing. Every new course feels responsible. Every new certificate feels rational. Every new improvement feels justified. None of these decisions are wrong by themselves. The danger appears when your identity quietly shifts from someone who applies knowledge to someone who is always collecting more of it. You become increasingly qualified to begin, while beginning itself keeps moving further away. Eventually, the habit survives even when the original reason disappears. Preparation no longer supports life. It becomes life. Permanent preparation rarely feels dangerous because it looks productive. From the outside, it resembles discipline. From the inside, it can slowly replace participation with anticipation. The person is constantly improving, yet rarely experiences the psychological permission to simply step forward. None of this means we should return to a slower world that no longer exists. The pace of change is real. Artificial intelligence will continue changing professions. Entire industries will continue transforming. Many careers that exist today will look completely different within a decade. Under those conditions, the ability to adapt quickly may become one of the most valuable professional skills a person can develop. Learning through focused courses, practical experience, and continuous reskilling may become more useful than relying only on qualifications earned years earlier. That is not a failure of education. It is a reflection of a faster civilization. But adaptation and permanent preparation are not the same thing. Adaptation allows you to engage with reality as it changes. Permanent preparation convinces you that reality should always begin tomorrow. One expands your ability to live, the other quietly postpones living itself. The future may genuinely reward adaptability more than stability. The question is whether we can build cultures that encourage continuous learning without convincing people they are never complete enough to participate in the present. Adaptation prepares you for reality. Permanent preparation postpones reality. Perhaps the rarest experience in modern life is no longer success. It is completion. The quiet moment when nothing needs to be optimized, updated, or improved before you allow yourself to move forward. Previous generations were often given visible markers that separated one chapter from the next. Today's markers blur together. One update immediately introduces another. One achievement quickly becomes yesterday's requirement. One finished chapter quietly turns into another preparation phase. We have become remarkably good at improving ourselves. The question is whether we are becoming equally good at recognizing the moments when improvement has already become enough for today. Human beings need progress. They also need psychological arrival. Without occasional moments of completion, progress slowly loses its emotional meaning and becomes indistinguishable from permanent maintenance. The system did not set out to steal the feeling of being ready. It solved problems. It reduced friction. It accelerated knowledge. It expanded opportunity. It helped create a world that is more dynamic than any generation before us experienced. But every acceleration changes the environment in which human beings learn to live. Every solution reshapes the expectations that follow it. Every improvement carries a trade. The question is no longer whether change is good or bad. Change is already here. The more important question is whether we can continue adapting without losing the moments that remind us we are already allowed to begin. Because perhaps the greatest cost of permanent preparation isn't that you never stop learning. It's that you quietly forget you were already allowed to begin. Civilizations are not defined only by the problems they solve. They are also defined by the kinds of human beings those solutions quietly encourage people to become. If Punchline Protocol explores what modern life feels like from the inside, Dark Side Protocol explores the systems that quietly shape those feelings. And Debrief Protocol connects both perspectives into a broader picture of how modern life is changing us. The ideas are human. The narration is digital. Interpretation remains yours.